Hello, Ian VS 410 ERS. I just wanted to say a few things about sustainability, which I know seems like a no-brainer for us at Huxley College, but let us take a closer look. So I'm going to share screen. Yeah, and here we are. And so sustainability, a closer look. Um, so we talk about the triple bottom line in sustainability. So environmental is one leg, economic is one leg, and social, cultural is the other. And I don't know, some would say that the idea of the triple bottom line is really just an idea that you can't have a successful, sustainable system that really is meeting all three general goals of economics, environmental integrity, and social and cultural vulnerability reduction. It just doesn't exist. This is, of course, something that we study in the business and sustainability major a lot, and really do try and pick it apart. For example, soil. Look at this beautiful handful of soil that I talked about, this same handful, in the introductory overview PowerPoint for this class. And it's not clear what is the scale and what is the scale of operation that you could have with this kind of soil, this kind of commitment to soil building, soil health, and soil organic matter. Because even if you're doing all the right things in terms of manipulating and recycling and regenerating compost, soil takes some time to form. So then it becomes a race with the nutrients that are being extracted from the soil in the very bodies of the plants or their fruit or their leaves, and then what you are adding over time. Okay. But Wes Jackson, our textbook author, calls for a reconfiguration of human economies. Okay, and you'll hear a lot, you'll hear some in the guest lectures for this course about cash farming versus sustainable versus, you pick it. So we're always trying to think about what, not necessarily how the economics and the environmental component can work out, but whether it's even possible to do it. Kind of a much more severe kind of question. All right, what about sustainability in food? Yeah, there have been calls since time immemorial, really, about sustainable food systems for sure. But popularized ideas about it really started to happen in the 1960s during the so-called civil rights era. And Francis Moore Lappé was very much part of that 1960s cult in Berkeley, and it's how Diet for a Small Planet happened. And she wrote the foreword to my book, World Food, Population, and Development, and then went on to write a dozen other books. Now she talks about values, true democratic American values, and kind in a sharing, sustainable economy. Exposing unjust political economies precede the spate of locavore writing today. Yes, okay. And Michael Pollan is a very good writer. He's a journalist, and he has a lot of mantras around this, one of which is eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And by plants, he's talking about not just plant products, but also grass-fed livestock, but not too much. Not too much butter, not too much olive oil, not too much fruit, not too much. So his is an interesting thesis. And of course, if you're not eating as much, you are on your way to a more sustainable, more efficient kind of eating lifestyle. For some, sustainability is tantamount to biodiversity. And so we would call this habitat enhancing agriculture. This is at Bellwood Acres again, and they really claimed that they were enhancing the habitat and had the proof of the little critters and bigger critters that they saw at their farm. So habitat enhancing agriculture, look at these farm practices, because that is the kind of, those are the practices we're talking about. You're going to see this a lot with Brian Kirkfleet's lecture in the second module, I believe. My cheat sheet is gone, on permaculture. And he is going to talk about permaculture as habitat-based farming, or not even farming, stewardship, which really increases the amount and kind of niche for other organisms. And that this is an example of sustainability, of agroecology. I mentioned indicators in the earlier PowerPoint. Yeah, this derives from the Brundtland Commission, Our Common Future, the idea of sustainability and its indicators, how we would measure it. And just know, this is kind of the origins of the term as we use it in environmental studies. Again, the term is probably from time, or the concept, immemorial. Today, ideas about carrying capacity and ecological footprint, all of these fully integrated food systems build on the ideas. That's why I want to include just a teeny little bit of history of the Brundtland Commission. One of our challenges is taxonomic, is what we're calling, what we really mean by sustainability. Do we mean organic agriculture? We're going to see that organic has gotten very big. I talk about that in FoodWise, very big organic. But really, biodynamic is also becoming very big. It's becoming a label. And what happens to the practices when it becomes an economic label? Anyway, what is it that we mean? This comes from Willie Lockeritz, who was a good colleague. He has died in the last couple of years, but he was a physicist who wanted to publish in every single journal on agriculture. And he worked with Barry Commoner, an environmental writer, for a long time. Okay, so are we talking about sustainable over time? The ability to endure, or something which is alternative to the existing prevailing system, or something that's just low input and thus efficient, low input relative to the output, the biomass that's produced. So reduced use of materials. Typically, it refers to efficient energy and resource use. The use of practices that optimize the rate of turnover and recycling of nutrients. All right, and you're going to get a dose of this with Brian Kirkfleet as he looks at all the polyculture on his farm, and thus establishing energy efficiencies. And his is a good farm to look at for energy efficiencies and specific market crops. So he'll talk about his Inspiration Farm garlic, and Henning will talk about his delightful cheddar cheese, and Jessica Guigeot talks about her specific sheep cheese, and you'll get the idea. I took these pictures in Greece when I was teaching sustainable land use planning for Nick Zafiratos about 12 years ago. At any rate, and this is our last slide, the criteria for designing and assessing sustainability should be measurable. So that's what I was saying in the earlier PowerPoint, that if you call something sustainable or not sustainable, then surely you've got a way of measuring that. That actual measurement process can be divisive among farmers, FYI. And the term sustainability often is, because it implies you're either in the sustainability fold or outside of it. Whereas I prefer to use the term resilient, which you'll get to know during this term, because it's in a sense irrespective of scale. All farms, irrespective of size, want to be resilient. They want to develop the adaptive capacity to withstand threats, to reduce their vulnerabilities. And it's a more inclusive term than sustainability. So the farm resilience study that I mentioned in the earlier PowerPoint, the introductory PowerPoint, yeah, I would not have gotten farmers to come to a session. And in the end, I got 44 farmers, which was quite amazing. If I'd used the word sustainable, Huxley's sustainability project, because they consider that Huxley privileges small and small scale over large scale production agriculture when we're talking about sustainable. Measuring important key elements, analytically and statistically sound, understandable, easy to interpret, it's sensitive, etc. Cost. So what sustainability indicators can you think of that capture some of these ideas? Some were given in the ENVS overview PowerPoint. All right, so I just wanted to share those ideas with you. Perhaps you can use them for other classes or other life projects. If this is your last class, I'm going to stop sharing. Again, wish you well on your journey in ENVS 410. And remember, get in touch with me if you have interest in working in the Arnson Gardens.